Our next speaker is Julie Allen, and she recently delivered this speech at ProPath at the showcase, and due to some technical difficulties, there'll be another shoot of the same speech, so she's eager to receive any suggestions, because she's really doing it this week, this next week or two. Julie plans to start delivering seminars around this speech's content and related topics. That's a new area for Julie. She's struggling with how to categorize the topic area that her speech falls into. For example, if there were a form, what type of speech would the box that you check say? So I think what Julie would like is some help on the categorization. What is this speech? Where does it fit? Okay, makes sense? Did I get that?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Our next speaker is an expert business coach and trainer. Today she'll be sharing one of her signature workplace strategies for thriving in the workplace. Please help me welcome Julie Allen.
How many of you have ever been so frustrated at work that you were ready to walk out the door, slam it in the face, and never once look back? How many of you? Workplace can get really stressful and emotional, can't it? Have you ever noticed that no matter how crazy the workplace is, there always seems to be one person that just doesn't seem to get anything? Let me tell you a little secret. For most of my career, that person has been me. It's almost as if I have a BS-free bubble surrounding me, that when something stress comes at me, it's like there's a force field that keeps it from hitting me. How many of you would like to learn how to create your own BS-free bubble? One of the things I've observed time and time in the workplace, that unless you work for one of those utopian companies, most people get exactly the amount of stress, amount of BS that they're willing to put up with. Let me repeat that. Most people get exactly the amount of BS that they're willing to put up with. So how do we remedy this? Simply have a low tolerance for BS. That's it. Speech over. Just kidding. Sometimes it really is that easy, but usually there's more to it. Many years ago, when I did my first IT contract at Delta Airlines, I was grossly underpaid. You see, I had never done the type of work I would be doing, and the recruiter for the contract company didn't want to give me the job. So I made a deal with him. I agreed to take a really low rate, and then prove myself, and then come back in 6 months, and we would adjust my rate to fair market value. He agreed. I got presented to Delta, and I got the job. I was really motivated to succeed. I worked really hard. I learned everything about the system. I asked tons of questions. And in about 3 months, I was one of the most knowledgeable people around. We were doing production support. How many of you remember pagers? Remember those things? Beep, 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 beep? Well, our job ran overnight, and we would get calls day and night, and we rotated that pager. I got so good at that job that even when I wasn't on call, they would call me up because they knew I would be able to figure out the solution to that production problem. So when my 6 months were up, I went over to my recruiter and said, I'm ready for that raise. Well, he started backpedaling, as if we had never had that conversation. We only do raises every 12 months. Let's just say I wasn't very happy. So I basically pushed and pushed, and finally he agreed to have an interview with my boss at Delta. She gave me a flowery review. He came back and said, okay, we'll give you a raise. It amounted to about 3%, which was nothing, and you won't be eligible again for a year. I was frustrated, and I was ready to walk out that door. Well, my Delta manager must have gotten wind of the fact that I was thinking of leaving, because a couple days later, I got a call from the recruiter. Hey, Julie, we're going to give you a raise. It turns out that I got exactly what I wanted. I was given a raise that amounted to about 20% that put me right at full market value, and I was eligible again at my 12-month anniversary. Without even knowing it, I had followed what has become my 3-step process for creating a BS-free bubble. I did the first bubble out of anger and frustration. Now I do it deliberately, and you can too. I call this 3-step process the BOW method. B-O-W. The B in BOW stands for B. Be exceptional. This just doesn't work if you do mediocre work. You have to apply yourself fully, just as I did at Delta. The O in BOW stands for own. Own your value. Own your worth. Too often, we do great work and we produce amazing results. Yes, we don't take credit for what we know, for what we're capable, and for the results that we produce. This is especially important for women. Often we've been taught to be humble. It wouldn't be ladylike for us to brag about everything we've done. We have to all break through that. Owning your value is key. The W in BOW is what people struggle with the most. Many of us believe that we desperately need our jobs. The idea of losing our job causes us stress and anxiety. The W in BOW stands for being willing to walk away. You see, when we believe that we desperately need our jobs, it makes us feel and act desperate. This is explained by analogy. I want you to imagine that today is the birthday of that special person in your life. You've decided that you're going to go all out, and you've booked a restaurant at that beautiful hotel on the waterfront that has that great view and has that great food. You've scheduled 3 weeks ago. You called them up, you talked to them, they told you they were going to give you a great table on the waterfront and have the waiters come and sing. So when you showed up today and you saw that the place was kind of crazy, you had to wait almost 30 minutes, and then the host comes, and he takes you, and he walks past 5 different tables that are empty on the waterfront, and takes you to the back, puts you at a table by the restroom. Wow. Wait! Can we have one of those tables over there? I'm sorry, ma'am, those are just not available. And he starts to walk off. You stop him and said, excuse me, I reserved a waterfront table. I'm very sorry, ma'am, but we won't be able to accommodate you today. We have a very special party, and those tables just aren't available. Wow. What do you do? How many of you would just go and sit in the back as he suggested? Anybody? Not a one. How many of you would ask to speak to the manager? Right. Well, let's think about it. Let's unpack that for a moment. Think about for a moment why it is you want to speak to a manager. Is it because you've been going to that restaurant for a long time and you expect them to take care of you? Now I'd like you to imagine, what would you do if you talked to the manager, you told them what happened, and they still wanted you to sit at the table in the back? How many of you would basically demand to get a better table, or say you're going to walk out that door and never come back to that restaurant? Show of hands, how many would you do that? And of those people that raise their hands, how many of you would actually leave? Yet we don't have that type of confidence when it comes to our workplace, do we? Just like we own our value as a customer, we need to learn to own our value in the workplace, to be willing to walk out that door when we're not being treated correctly. Why? Because when we act desperate to hold on to our jobs, it can be taken for granted that we will always be there, no matter what they do to us. And we'd end up having no negotiating power. We get a lot of BS, and we don't get what we want. So am I suggesting that you should quit your job every time you don't get what you want? Of course not. However, I am suggesting that if you follow the BOW method and you become incredible, and you own your worth, and you're willing to walk out that door, the chances are you'll never actually have to leave. Because just like the situation with the restaurant, in the back of our minds, we know that when we demand to be treated well, that if that manager truly values us as a customer, they're going to do whatever it takes to keep us from leaving. And the same is true in the workplace. When we truly own our value and we're willing to walk away, they will not let us go if they really value us. So let me recap. BOW method, B-O-W. B, exceptional. Own your value. Be willing to walk out the door. Can everybody please stand up and quickly find a partner?
There you go. Okay.
Okay, so the BOW method. The B in BOW stands for be exceptional. Turn to your partner and look him in the eye and say, I am exceptional.
I am exceptional.
And then I want you to own the value that you bring to the workplace. And I want you to say, I own my worth.
I own my worth.
And when somebody messes with you, tell your partner, I am willing to walk out that door.
I am willing to walk out that door.
So one more time, be, own, walk. I am exceptional.
I am exceptional.
I own my worth.
I own my worth.
And I am willing to walk out that door.
And I am willing to walk out that door.
Okay, have a seat, everybody.
Oh God, that's so fun.
Poof. I see a BS-free bubble surrounding the room.
Love it.
All right, so.
Come on up, come on up.
I say
Sit
it
over
right.
here. Yep.
So this is hard to do because you're really good at this. Like I can tell you practice. I've seen you, was it a year ago or more at a lab?
Yeah.
And that was one of the first ones you had done, I think, and you were okay then, and now you're much better. As far as the categorization, I'm going to talk about that in just a second. But there's one place in there where I really felt like you could bring more to it,
Okay.
and you repeated it, so it's an important thing. You get exactly the level of bullshit that you put up with, and I don't know if I got it exactly right, but you believe that, but I didn't feel it as much as it could.
Okay.
That one place, and I really do understand it, and I would almost think that you call back to that.
Okay.
Like how bow fits back into, if you're putting up with employees that don't do the work, and you're putting up with managers that aren't leading you the way they want to, you're putting up with the political stuff that's really crazy, and we can't grow and innovate in our business, then be willing to walk out the door. So that really does have some central kind of focus within the speech I've taken. So I think you deliver it with more heart and soul.
Okay.
And maybe even tell us stories related to that. I mean, I know you did tell stories about this, but and I like the BOW method. I like a framework, right? I think all of our speeches should have some kind of framework because that's the practical and actual. The audiences really want to write down the acronyms. They really want to know the steps. They want to know how to do something. And we didn't have much time today, so imagine the full speech. There's like, here's the keys to being exceptional, right? Or here's the key question, like, did I do exceptional work today? Whatever it may be. Own your worth. Those are two great ones. I know willing to walk out the door is a big one, but my first thought was like, who's going to hire her? Their best employees are willing to walk out the door, and she's encouraging them. Like, am I going to put her in the room to tell them to walk out the door? And I know you talk about it later, like, do this, be willing to put up with this, and this is where it puts it. You get what you put up with.
Yeah. Thank you.
So I understand the point, but I'm thinking about, because I think you want to speak to corporate.
I am thinking I can't do this at corporate.
I disagree. I think you can.
I mean, it just depends on whether they'll hire you and will it create spinoff. Like, you can get the first gig, would you get more?
I think, part of how if I were to do this longer, part of how I would spin it is really that it's about becoming an exceptional employee.
Yeah.
And making sure that you're always doing the best work, and I think that part does add value to the corporation. And it's not about actually leaving, it's about owning your value.
Yeah, and that's, I get that.
Yeah.
And then those are two great things that I think every corporate audience wants and any audience wants. But when you say, be willing to walk out the door 17 times, and you've got, all this stuff. I mean, I know that I talk about entrepreneur spirit in the company, and some people are like, we don't want the entrepreneur spirit. That means they're going to start their own business. I'm like, that has nothing to do with what we're talking about. So I have to be careful, so I've changed it to ownership to make sure I'm away from that.
Okay.
So I'm not saying change your framework and whatnot, I just like, how does it fit into it? Something at the end caught me that I think, and I don't remember exactly what it said, but you started to pull it together, and I think it was around the, be willing to walk out the door doesn't mean you will walk out the door, it just means that's who you are. Like you're cleared who you are and what you'll stand for, because that way, that BS-free bubble, and I did look at the BS-free bubble thing, I wrote down about it. So as far as categorization, the big ones are leadership, so is that a leadership speech? It's probably not a sales speech, it's probably not a marketing speech. I guess it fits in leadership, but you have to figure out, like, really clear, because that's going to be.
It's really a message for the gig economy, actually. Right? So
freelancers, it works 100% for them. Like the entrepreneurial market, like be exceptional, like don't even do your work if you can't be great, because, and then own your work. Like for the entrepreneurial market, this is a really good speech. Be willing to walk up the door. Be willing to fire that client. Like everyone's had a bad client, right? Raise your hand. So for the entrepreneur market, I think this is really good. And so that, from a categorization standpoint, it's different than corporate though.
Yeah. Just a build on that, I had dinner with my somewhat virtual assistant last night, and I think that if you very strategically went and looked for contractor groups, so virtual assistants would eat this up, you'd have to modify it a little, they would eat it up, because it's all about empowerment with virtual assistants. They're my clients, I could fire them, and that would just be a little shift in some of your language.
Thank you.
Who else? Steve?
Julie, this is the best presentation I've ever seen you give there, really. I thought it was wonderful. You carried your own there, your body language, your delivery, I loved it. I took notes.
Thank you.
So, so I have a couple of things that I don't know that I want you to absorb for the 10-minute talk you're going to give in the reshoot, okay? So if I can couch it with that.
That's fine, thank you.
I like Jean's question of who is this for, because I know that you struggled a little bit with trying to coming up with this. Finding that persona, that the buyer, the avatar, whatever your language is around that, I think is really critical in helping you get clear on what you're trying to communicate and who's it going to be for. I think it's fabulous for the freelance economy. There's a danger, and 10 minutes is just the beginning, but there's a danger in having it come off as arrogance, right? So, and I know that's not what it means, and it's not who you are. So figuring out how to bridge that gap between owning it, being willing to walk away, and actually being at peace. That's not an angry, I'm throwing my fists up in the air. It is a bubble is a peaceful place. It's not an angry place. I don't have to demand anything. I own it. So it's there already. So kind of getting it at least straight in your head, and then thinking about the longer presentation beyond 10 minutes. How do you pull that in? Because I think that's there. I know that's there in your way of approaching life and work in general. It's not coming out in that 10-minute speech. Wash your hands. So you're like me, you're like, you bring everything together and clasp your hands and right in front of your solar plexus. So just kind of think about where you're using that. I think that's it. You did a great job. I mean, you did an awesome job at Showcase, but so I think you're going to rock it the second time around. And like I said, everything that I gave you, don't worry about it for the 10 minutes, but think about it for the longer term.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Yeah, I so am with you on there's something beneath and there's something more to owning our value. So when I own my value and I take full responsibility for me, then I'm at peace with whatever comes in my life because I'm honoring that which whatever comes. So when it resonates with me, then I move forward. When it doesn't resonate with me, I don't move forward. So there's something, because, and I'm just going to lay it out here, there's something about women who march against men versus women who march owning who they are as women. There is a big difference. This comes across of I'm marching because you. I'm out the door. There's something in there that resonates with me. Because I remember when you were up on stage, I was like, a lot of anger in there, right? That's just what goes on for me underneath. So, and like you said, I don't think that that's where you're coming from, right? You're really there wanting that connection to that authentic, does it resonate with me? And owning who I am and what I'm about, and being willing to be in that space and contribute, be contributed to, and being able to contribute.
Got it, thank you.
Thank you, thanks.
I was, so on this subject that y'all were just discussing, that arrogance is a word that's used. I was thinking that, you know, when you went and slammed the door and then you said, am I telling you to quit your job? No, I'm not telling you to quit your job. I think that's a softener that mitigates that I take this job and shove it sort of thing, but you just have all this wonderful personality that it's playful. So I think when you watch the tape back, you'll see, let me just scale this a little bit, a little more of this, maybe a little less of that, you'll get your zone, I think. It's just so dang fun at the end. I was just having so much fun with Christy. So that's such a fantastic part. Because it's so fun and I'm so engaged with it, then when you only deliver one line before you do your closing bow, I'm not ready for it to end quite, and I didn't quite hear what was said. So I would say put one more line. You don't need a ton, it's a great ending, but one more line. So it's now you've created a BS-free bubble, but that's the whole point of your talk, so we just went through experiences, so I want like one more line.
Okay, would it be, one time I gave this a while ago, and I remember saying, creating a BS-free bubble, and that's really a peaceful place to be. Would that be it?
And I like that. I like that a lot. Yeah, so I know you. So you and I have had a lot of long conversations about this. So I know it doesn't come from a place of anger, but I think it could get misconstrued that way. I love that idea of peaceful.
I think that there's room for a call to action because you've talked about it, you've let us experience something, or we've now experienced a tool that's part of creating it. So maybe you want to say, what do I want them to go do next after this? And maybe you make that call to them. Say, so how can you create this bubble-free zone you've experienced with them? How can you create it? Some sort of call to action to really tie it down. Okay, playing with the W word, and is it willing to walk out the door? One thing I wanted to say is when you did your BOW, when you got to W, you said being willing, and I was like, W, wait a minute. Being, oh, that's a B, that's wait. So I wanted to suggest willingness to walk away. That gets you right into your W instead of being willing. But the other thing, if you decide that willingness to walk out the door is too hard to make into I don't really mean go out the door, but it's a vibe inside yourself. You could play with something like wishing, wanting, like you want to want more for yourself. You want to want a ton for yourself because in the story that you gave us, you wanted a lot. You weren't going to be happy with this. I want more, right? So that might be an idea to think about with a W. The last thing I would say is same thing with Steve with the ad-libbing. Just watch it and see. Sometimes you talk yourself into a little bit of a box, you know?
Yeah.
And there are certain areas where your content is so important you want to nail it. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
What if it's willingness to raise your standards?
Or have standards, draw the line in the sand.
Right, because the whole thing
Willingness
about
to draw
the
the
bubble
line.
free
Mhm.
is to, you get what you accept.
Yeah.
But the willingness to raise your standards.
I kind of like the walk.
See,
I kind of like the walk.
The thing about this is just being really frank, so I've actually toned this down quite a bit.
Yeah.
Because it used to be basically, a long time ago, I used to talk to people and say, basically go in there, do really great work, get to the point where they depend on you, and then basically tell them, if they fuck with you, I'm out. And that was the way I used to say it. And so I like the edge, but I feel like there's a
You
point
want
where,
some edge.
yeah, I still like having the edge. I think part of who I am is,
Who would you sell this to?
I'm thinking
Have you
more
sold
of
it?
I haven't sold it, I just decided to kind of pursue this about a month ago.
Who would you sell it
I would probably sell it to, my thought initially was women's groups,
to? Okay.
because I think this message tends to resonate with women. Although I did have quite a few men mention it afterwards that they really, after the speaker lab, that they liked it as well. I like the entrepreneur group as well.
Can I just tell you too, I wouldn't hire you.
Okay.
Now, I would hire you if you were able to take that energy and passion that you said, don't fuck with me or I'm out of here. If you were able to take that and I knew that you were able to translate that into a passionate commitment of who you were being, no matter what, then if I knew that you were going to fulfill a position for me, and I knew you were in, and don't fuck with her because she's gonna get the job done, and I'm in because she makes it happen, I would hire you. But when you bring it across like, I'm gonna have to have a confrontation with you all the time, then I'm like, yeah, not so much. And I don't want you instilling in that with my people. Now, if you can instill that
Right.
in a way that gets them to uphold their standard, to bring their greatness to the table, to participate no matter what, no matter what, meaning they're not compromising, I'm not expecting them to compromise. So it's a win-win, both on the person who's hired and the person who's
Right.
hiring, on the leadership and the executive, on the corporation. If it's that win-win, then you bring that goddamn kick-ass attitude to the table. But if you're doing it out of, don't fuck with me, I'm out, then I don't want it.
That's fair.
I think that's a really great point.
Thank you.
I like it.
All
Good.
right.